What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe.
So are we feeling recharged for football season?
Yeah, like I think going into this one, I feel more recharged than I ever have. Like, and I'm not like a guy that lacks for motivation, but like I am just kind of like incredibly excited to get to work right now. And yeah, we just got out here yesterday. Mickey and DA talk later today. Practice starts tomorrow. I'm incredibly excited to kind of see what this team becomes. I think the eyes are wide open to what they can be and can't be possibly, but I'm just excited to see how it comes together. I'm incredibly motivated to just watch these practices. I think it stinks that like the fans aren't going to be able to come out here at all, but we aren't going to take that responsibility lightly. We got to be the eyes and ears for everything out here, and again, that's something that we always take incredibly seriously. But I think it's going to get taken to the max just because no one else is going to be able to see them. So it's going to be up to us to have good analysis, accurate analysis. Make sure we're telling people, the right stuff. I'm excited to get that process started.
Can you corroborate reports that the team thinks that Dennis Allen is cool now?
I like DA. I'm a DA fan. I think he knows how to relate to his team. I mean, if they're doing things to kind of take that even a step further, I think that's good. I mean, I thought that was maybe a little bit of an issue last year. I wrote a story about kind of the messaging last year, like being needing to change, like to reach all the players. And I think we saw it in the second half of last season last year. I think if nothing else, like the DA's greatest quality is that I think that he's aware. I think there's a level of awareness to what he is, what he isn't, where he's succeeding, where he's failing. I think it's a willingness to address those things. He's a guy that has a top 10 defense and fires his entire staff because he feels like he could be a little bit better. Like, I think he's somebody that's incredibly honest about like those self audits. And if it's needed to play, more games and meetings and get people laughing and loosened up and all that stuff, cool. Like, I think that's a good thing to notice and to do. Matt Parrish wrote that story. I thought it was a good story, good reporting on it. Yeah, I mean, it's something though that I think is good to start out at that place. I do think though last year, if you look, there's a dividing point in the season where it feels like they kind of figured out a lot of their internal issues, figured out how to get everybody on the same page, got everybody relate, and they started playing better. The offense started becoming easier, all that stuff. So I think if they're able to start that sooner, like maybe it sets them up to get off to a good start this season. And I think that's maybe the thing that determines the outcome of the whole entire year, because like the schedule, if you look at strength of schedule, it's not too bad. Like I think it's actually one of the easiest schedules in the league. But if you look at where the games are slotted and how they're set up, if they get it off to a bad start, I think that's the thing that could just collapse the whole season, because then everybody's sitting in the locker room looking at each other and going like, here we go again. Everything we tried to do didn't work. And then maybe everything blows up. So whatever they can do to hit the ground running, like I think they should try all that stuff.
Hey, Nick, what's the joint practice schedule? Because obviously you being down there in Irvine, you went out there with a purpose, not just the weather. There's a ton of teams that have training camp right there. So what's maybe that joint practice schedule looking like?
Could you hear his question, Nick? Can you hear me?
No.
Okay. He was asking, with so many teams in Irvine, what does that joint practice schedule look like during camp?
So the only joint practice they're having is against San Francisco. And interestingly enough, it's happening here where the Saints are practicing, and then they're going to San Francisco to play the game, which is kind of interesting.
Well, home and home.
I don't know why. I don't know why they would bring all their stuff down here just to go up there. I guess it allows the Saints to kind of maintain their base, and then I guess like going back to New Orleans cuts down some driving time on some of the equipment. I don't know, but you still got to take stuff up there. So that's something I guess we can ask him today why it's set up like that. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that like there isn't like a Raiders or, a Chargers or a Rams just kind of considering everybody in this area. But yeah, that's the only one. Going to be a great test though. I mean, that's kind of the team you want to practice against We'll find out, kind of everything over those few days. And, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, though, because, they're going to be running the same offense, so you're going to kind of be getting the same looks against your defense, but maybe just against maybe different skill sets and all that stuff. But, yeah, that's the only one they got set up right now.
So, and I apologize to Matthew because I've been saying Para all morning instead of Paris. I'm an idiot. But I really did enjoy that piece, and I enjoyed how, it started out funny, whatever, the games, but then it got into this idea that, Dennis Allen was hired for continuity, but he's kind of had to reshape this thing in his own image, right? And the defensive staff overhaul. Now you have the offensive staff overhaul. Nick, if the offensive overhaul is as successful as the defensive one was, where do the Saints end this season?
Double-digit wins. I mean, if it works as well as that, I mean, hold up though. Here's the wild thing about the offense. Look where they finished in yards per game and points per game, and you won't believe the result of the season. So, what does it actually have to be?
Where did they finish?
They were top 10 in both.
Okay. It was a top 10 defense, too, when he switched everything up, correct? That's crazy. So you were top 10 in points per game. You were 6 in allowed. You were top 10 in scored, and you finished, 7 and 10?
Yeah. Well, they were a game above, right? Last year, 9 and 8. Weren't they 9 and 8 last year?
I'm being dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 and 10 the year before. But it's just kind of wild to see. I guess it's just kind of how it's stacked and how it comes together. Statistically, every single time I go to write something about how bad something was, you look at the numbers and it's it just doesn't. The numbers never support what it felt like you watched. It just feels like a really weird outlier season because a lot of times, there's a little bit of disconnect between the visual analysis and the statistical analysis, but it exists within the same realm. There's just so much stuff on this offense that doesn't make sense to me. It's how are these numbers at? But then you kind of go back and you look at the end of last season and they really were putting it together to the point where I was the guy, Pete's got to go, Pete's got to go, Pete's got to go. And then by the end of the season, it's is he making a case here? It was kind of weird how they figured things out. But if they are a good offense from start to finish, I would say that it felt like there was a lot of yards of production in clusters of games and at times at end of games where they were losing, where it didn't matter anymore. It felt like a little bit of
yeah.
I don't want to use the word stat padding, but the numbers got inflated a little bit through some of that stuff. So if it's a real strong, conducive to winning offensive number type of stuff, yeah, I mean, I think they could be a lot better, but can they actually get there? I mean, that's the real question. And I have significant concerns about the offensive line. I have significant concerns about Trevor Penning. If Penning doesn't work out, I don't know enough about Uliudo or some of these other guys yet to really know if there's that backstopping of it to where it's going to be okay. I mean, I guess if you can get the James Hurst level, but a more athletic version, I mean, I guess that's an improvement for that spot, or at least the overall strength of the offensive line. But there's a lot of stuff they got to figure out. But yeah, if the offense can be good, I mean, yeah, this could easily be a 10-win team. But I think the variance for me though is 7 wins to 10 wins, and I think 10 wins is if everything goes right. I think they got to get Alvin Kamara bought back in. I think that's going to be a process. I think there's just a lot of stuff that they got to figure out on that side of the ball going into camp.
Can we get an update on the fullback position battle, Nick?
Well, I think it's going to be. I think it's Prentice. I mean, I think he's running ahead right now. But I really think it's mostly going to be. I think Taysom's going to get a lot of those snaps, and I think when you look at the way they operate those, the Kubiak offenses, the Shanahan offenses, it's a lot of 21 personnel, and I think the flex with Taysom is that, I think he allows you to turn it into 12, based on if they aren't coming out in their base defense, and I think that's going to be the thing that they kind of build their identity around is that flexibility with him. And it's really kind of fascinating when you start breaking down what the rest of the league does in 21. And, it's Miami, it's Houston, and it's San Fran last year. and their attempts are like topping everybody by like 100, and they're killing teams with it. And it's kind of like, well, why doesn't everybody else do this? And there's got to be more than 3 good fullbacks in the NFL that kind of allow you to operate out of this personnel. But it really does feel like a massive cheat code, and it's kind of one of those like common sense things when you think about it. It's like, well, why are they doing this? And it's because like nobody spends time building out their base defense. You got a handful of pressures, a handful of coverages you can do out of it, and it's like nobody's putting in this like extensive package because you aren't going to end up in it 30 times a game until you play these teams, but they get you stuck in a look and they just kind of murder you with it. And I think it was taken to a 10 with San Fran because Juszczyk could line up a lot of different places. I think Taysom's a different type of player, but I think that flexibility is something they're gonna tap into. I think that's what they're gonna build their identity on. But yeah, I think he'll at the end of the season be kind of the main fullback, even if he's not listed as fullback. And then I think that he's just gonna be I think he's gonna be the identity of the offense in a lot of ways.
Nick, I got to say, and by the way, Nick, of course, from neworleans.football. You should go sign up today. I'm a proud subscriber. We did the blind. I gave Jake the blind Pepsi test the other day with Herbert and Burrow stats. Very well done there. Again, it's kind of one of those statistical disconnects that you were alluding to. It just feels at this point, Nick, I guess the point that I've reached through a full Saints offseason now is I don't know how many more ways I can come in here daily and say, here's to hoping that Kubiak can solve everything. Like, are you feeling it as well? Have you ever seen this amount of hope and optimism riding on one single coaching change that isn't even a head coaching change?
No, I mean, there's so much on it. I mean, there is, because it feels like it just has to flip like completely. And I think one of the reasons that you kind of become hopeful of it is because I mentioned like 8 times that like just the end of last season when they started using motion, they started using play action, and it's like, well, what if they actually do these things with the cohesive vision where it's like, and at the end of last year, I feel like they were just kind of throwing stuff at it, like, yeah, run a play action, like. I think if you get someone in here with okay, we're gonna build this, and we're gonna run out of this look for 3 weeks, and then create a tell and break it in week 4 with this play action. Like if you're doing stuff like that and telling a story like Peyton used to, I thought that was the thing with him is you'd see something happen in week 17 and be like, man, like this is kind of like reminiscent. And you go back and you start looking, and it's like he's telling stories like to create tells and then breaking them. Like if you're doing that stuff and there's a cohesive vision, like maybe it does work. But I think it's on. And I put the same stock into it. It's kind of like, well, if Kubiak can fix it, if he can fix that, I think it's probably unfair to kind of view him as the savior, though. Like I think he's had some success, but then there's been some stuff like you look at how people kind of talked about him in Minnesota. It was like he was fine. It wasn't like he was like the wonder kid that kind of saved everything. But I think he can elevate this. I mean, I think it would be hard not to. And you look at the staff too. Like they got all the guys they wanted. So I think like kind of that optimism around it kind of builds. Like it isn't like they had the hodgepodge together in offensive staff. Like it really came together. So yeah, I think the weight on it is because what DA is on defense, and the defense is going to be fine. At some point it's not going to be top 10 anymore, and that's kind of one of my like quiet concerns going into the season is. You have a really old team on that side of the ball. And, one day you're going to look up and some of these old guys aren't going to be able to run anymore. Yeah. And it's going to, like, at some point slip. Is that this year or not? I don't know. So, like, it is imperative that the offense starts getting better kind of quickly. And I think when you look at, like, younger players, like, that side of the ball at least has a few. Like, I don't know that you have that hope on the defensive side of the ball in key spots. So, like, it kind of has to start shifting a little bit, and hopefully it starts with him, because if this doesn't work, I think it does all blow up. I think that's when it's like, all right, It's got to be new coach, rebuild, all that stuff, and it could get really dark for a long time. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of weight on this offensive hire because if it doesn't work, I think it just kind of wipes everything out.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.